In this video, we're going to create a nice lollipop chart, and what I really want to do here is first of all create these nice circular motions here, and secondly I want to have here this color of the background here, this chart area colors, depending on the zone that we have a different background color here, and you can see it will depend on these values specifically. So this will be a very interesting topic to explore. So let's start to look how to create an advanced lollipop chart in Chartjs. So the first thing what we need is to get the default code. So for the default code, go to chartjs3.com, and then you can see here getting started, and you can find the link also in the description box. So once you're on the page, scroll down here and copy this entire chunk of code. Once you copy that, and if you want to understand what this code does, make sure you watch this video here, explains it all. So then what I will do is I'll just paste this all in here, and once I did that, I will cut this out and replace the title here. So I'll save that, refresh, and now we have a nice bar chart. So what I will do is, well, we had this picture here, and this was basically from Stack Overflow, where was a discussion, can we do this in Chartjs, yes or no? Well, the answer is, you can do basically everything in Chartjs if, and only if, you understand how to code in the canvas itself. So if you wonder, how does that really work? You must see it like this. The canvas is basically like a desert of sand, and then Chartjs is a bucket in the shape of a chart, and you just put the sand in that chart or in that bucket. So basically the sand would be the code. Just put the sand in the bucket, and then you have the shape of a certain chart. However, we can do anything in Chartjs, and that's what we're going to do here now. So what we're going to do here, first of all, I want to convert this so it will be here on a horizontal level. So let's convert this first. Let's go here in the options, and we're going to say index axis, and this index axis will be equal to y. Save this, refresh, there you are. So now we have a horizontal item. So what I want to do is, because a lollipop chart is basically built on a line chart with a circle at the very end. However, let's go back here. You can see here this is the very thin line. What I want to do here is not to work with a line. I want to have like a very narrow bar, which is exactly the same. So what I'm going to do in here, we have this border width here. I'm going to say comma here, and then we're going to say bar, and this bar percentage as the command, which would basically do the following. You can see here, this is what we call the category of the bar, and we have here the bar percentage, basically the bar, the width of the bar. What we want to do, we want to narrow down the width, because right now this here is about approximately 80% of this space here. So if we go down to maybe 20%, it will be far more tiny. So I'm going to say 0.2. If I save that, refresh, there we are, and now we get a very acceptable response here, and this is quite acceptable. What I want to do here, the border width, let's remove this border width here, so there won't be any borders at all. But doing so, it will make our background transparent or slightly transparent. So let's make that more solid. You can see here our border color. I'm going to copy all of this. I'm going to paste that all in there. Save that, refresh, there we are. Now we have them all solid. So what I want to do here, and this is very important, and basically that's a real nice thing with a lollipop chart. For example, you want comparison with a house, and how far is the house from a certain area. So what I'm going to do is we're going to try to copy as much as possible here. Sorry. So you can see here, for example, here a few items. This house would be how many kilometers away from this grocery store, public transport, school, and the exercise location, for example. And you can see here, these are the numbers. So I'm going to just emulate some of this. So let's say here we have the school, that should be walking distance. We have the grocery, that should be certain things. Then the mall, the gym. Let's say here, what do we have more? The park. And then we have here, I guess, swimming, gym, mall. What do we have more? Maybe a playground for the kids. Playground. So I'm just making it up. You can imagine, so we say school would be walking distance 0.5 kilometers. And then we have the grocery, that's maybe 1 kilometer. And we have the mall is 1.3. We have the gym, that is 1.2. And we have the park, that's 2 kilometers or 2.1. And we have, or whatever this was, the swimming, 2.9. And finally we have the playground, which is 2.2. Alright, once we save this, go back here, refresh, we get all these numbers here. Beautiful. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to start to create basically here. Well, first of all, here, let's make here the kilometers. So we're going to scroll down here. So I'm using here kilometers, and it could be miles, could be anything you want. So the ticks, so let's go in here, and in here in the scales, I want to go into the x-axis. Then in here, I'm going to say the grid, and in the grid, what I want to do here, or sorry, it's not the grid, because we don't want to remove the grid lines, we're going to go on the ticks. Sorry. And then in the ticks, what I want to do here is create a callback. In this callback, we'll have 3 certain values. One of the value will be just a value as this, and then the other one will be, well, let's see here, we have an index that could be used, and then we have other ones of values in plural. Because it's a callback, we're going to use a arrow function expression, and then in here, all I want to do here is basically to return the value here. So what I will do here is, I will say just return, just grab this value, that's the official value, and then I'm going to do here concatenation kilometers. Once I have this, semicolon, save that, make sure you have a comma here, save, refresh, there we are. Alright, so this works, so we get now these values here. So that's step 1. So what I want to do here, well, let's put that here, we have to work on the colors, but what I want to do now is to make this circle here, basically the lollipop circle. So that we're going to do this, I need to create a new plugin. So in the options here, you can see in the options, we're going to say here basically the plugin, and this can be any name you want, but in this case I'll just call it Lollipop chart. Very straightforward, nothing fancy. And then here I'm going to say / this plugin block. And then in here we're going to say the following: constant lollipop chart equals, and I use the same, I'm going to say ID, although I will not use anything of the ID because the ID here officially is basically for the options. In this case, I will just ignore this. We don't need this so much. Then here we have the drawing time. I'm going to use later on another drawing time, but the most important one here is to first start with this one. So what I want to do here is I want to make sure that the lollipop head will be on top here. You can see here it has a gray color. In this case, I will just use these colors here. But of course, if you want to make them gray, I will show you later on how to do that. So what I'm going to do here for the drawing time is I'm going to say after the data sets has been drawn. So after data set drawn, if that has been done, then I want to have the circular shape on top here at the very end. So that's what we're going to do now. So we need here 3 specific parameters: the chart, the arguments, and option. Although the last 2 could be basically ignored, we won't be using them. But this one is basically the most important object. This is an object here, so what we're going to do here is what we call an object destructuring. Meaning, we're going to get one object and we're going to split them out. We're going to split them out into individual items. And what we need here, only for this one, we only need one specific item. So I'm going to say constant. Let's make the object destructuring, which is this. Alright, and then what is the item I want? So basically, instead of chart.ctx, I can do now, instead I want to use just only ctx. To do this, I need to indicate here ctx. Why? Because the ctx is inside the chart here. So that's very important. If you would do console log, you will see it immediately. So now we have this, and what I want to do now is start to draw basically the items here. Or at least I need to get the coordinates of this, where you can see where the tooltip points. That is really the most important one. That's basically the coordinate where we want to start drawing a circle. So to do this, I need to first have the official position of that. So how to do that? Well, what we can do here is basically a specific value. I'm going to show you this specific command. It's called the chart.getDataSetMeta, and this will be equal to 0 because it's index 0. We only have one index here. And then I'm going to say a dot data, and then we can just put here brackets for the array, and then we can just select here which index number. In this case, I just want the very first one, which would be the red one here, school. And then we say X. If we do this, save that, refresh, open up the developer tab, you will see here we get all of these coordinates. And these coordinates is very nice because if you refresh here, you can see it moves from left to right and it calculates basically the movement. That would mean that later on when we put in these circular lollipop heads, it will move from left to right nicely as well. So it will move along. Alright, so this is very important. Then of course if you want to do for the y value, just convert it to y. So now we have this here, and this is the special command that Chartjs has built in. This is why we can use this here. And that's why this requires a parentheses and not a bracket. Alright, so now I will say here the following. We're going to say here constant x equals that. And I'm going to copy all of this. I'm also going to get, of course, the y value, which is exactly the same, except we put in the y instead of x. Alright, so now we have this here. Now it's time to start drawing basically the item. So to draw this, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say here the following. First of all, I'm going to say constant. And this constant will be angle, because I want to make a circular item. And if you want to understand this very well, please check out my Canvas series. It's on YouTube as well. Explain everything about these kind of things and how to draw shapes in Canvas, and you can see how important it becomes. But what I want here is the following. I want to say here math.pi, and the reason why is because 1 pi equals a half circle. So I want to divide that and get only the angle itself, which would be divided by 180, because a full circle would be equal to 360. So now what I want to do is I want to draw a circle. I say ctx begin path. There's capital P here, make sure you do that. And then now we can start drawing. What I want to do here, first of all, I say ctx.fill style. And what this does is the following. What does it say here? Color. And I'm just going to make this black for now. And then later on I will show you how timing is so important in this. So then we have the black color. Then we're going to say ctx.arc. Again, this is a special command, consists of 5 values. A x position, basically x coordinates. We have the y coordinates, which is the y position. And then we have here the radius, which would indicate the circular, the size of the circle. And then we have here the angle start, angle end. And then finally, counterclockwise, yes or no, counterclockwise. And well, first one, counterclockwise will be false. We don't need this because we want to have just a full circle and we don't have to do anything fancy with that. And then here, x and y position. You already see it here, or you already guess it. That's that. And this. And here the radius. So the radius will be basically the circle that we have here. How big we want them. Well, let's say if this is a maybe, let's say about 4 or 5 pixels. Let's say we want to have a radius of 10 pixels. So that will mean the radius is just only half side of a circle. Basically from the circle to the center. That's one side. So if you want from circle starting to circle ending, from left to right basically, it would be twice the radius. So let's say here 10 pixels, but we might reduce this to see just how it will look. Then we have here the angle here, and the angle is basically angle multiplied by 0 degrees, and then we want to make this a full circle, so it's the angle multiplied by 360 degrees. Once we have this, what I want to do next is to say ctx.fill, basically to fill up the color with whatever color we have, which is black, but also draw the item. And finally, I want to say ctx.close path to stop the drawing. Basically, here we indicate we start drawing, and here we indicate this is the end of the shape. So we don't want to have any other items connected with it. So once we did that, finally ctx.restore to redo whatever, undo any values that we have here, save it and refresh. Once we do this, we get this circle, and I'll be honest with you that this circle is quite acceptable size here. Alright, so we have here something, and you might see here, alright, this works out very nice. And what I want to do next is basically the following. We have this, but I'll show you as well. This is why if you do before, and why timing is so important. If you do before the draw data set, it would mean we'll first draw the circle, and then we would draw here the bar itself. And you might notice the tooltip, you think the tooltip is being behind the item, but the issue is that the black color here is basically overlapping it, or the black with the darkness of the tooltip makes it very hard to spot that it is even there. However, once we give it a color, we can give this, let's give this pink, you will see it should be there nicely. There you are. The moment you see pink, you can see here now the black or the caret of the tooltip is very clear. Alright, what I do want to do with the caret is let's put that pointing it down, or basically what I want here is once we hover over it, I want to point it down and the tooltip cloud should be on the top. So what I'm going to say here in the plugins, then I'm going to say here tooltip, then we say here Y align, pointing the caret southward, meaning that the cloud will be on top. So we're going to say here bottom. Alright, so it points down. Save this, refresh. There we are. So now we have that cloud on the very top that looks far more appealing. So now what I want to do is I want to grab here the official color, and also, or before we even get the official color, let's loop through this here. We need to loop through them so we have them all. So to do this, what I'm going to do here is to create a for loop. I'm going to say a for loop, and then what I want to do here is let I equals 0, and then we're going to say here we're going to loop through I as long as this here. You can see here this data. This here data, remember this has like an index, and we could even, if I show you, you will understand exactly what I'm talking about. So let me do a console log so you have a clear vision of it. Save this, refresh. You can see here, it loops many times because of the animation here, don't worry about that, but the items here are X amount. You can see we get all the data here, and we get all of these here in total of a length of 7. So that's why if I can do here now, I can copy this. So we loop through that, we say dot length 7, we will get then the loop 7 times. Then we say here semicolon, and they say incremental plus plus. Alright, so once we have this, I want to cut out this, put it in here. Once I did this, you say, well, oh, do we need to put it in there as well? Well, in this case, I want to be a bit more fancy. I'm going to make a function in here. And this function will do the following. I'm going to grab here basically this. And what I want to do here, put that in there. And then let's give this function a proper name. Let's say, I guess, Lollipop circle or something like that. Doesn't matter. Anything you want. So once we do this, I want to make sure that this is of course triggered. So we're going to put this in here. Semicolon. Save that. Refresh. And then alright, so we have the X is undefined. Fair enough. That is correct. So the reason why that is these are not defined yet, because here with the X has, or is within this scope. That will mean that this here is outside the scope of this for loop here, so it doesn't recognize this. But what we can do is this value can be transferred here. How? There's a parameter here. So I'm going to say X and Y here, and what I'm going to say here, to avoid confusion, I'm going to give this another name. So let's give this very simple, the X position, and then secondly, comma, here we have the Y position. And I'm going to copy this, put it there, copy that, put it here, save, refresh. Alright, so this works now. Now we have this, but of course this one needs to be looped as well. We can use the I value here, put it in there, save that, save that and refresh. There we are. So now we have this, and we have them all here. I'm not sure if this is on before, but alright. So let's do this after. Go back to the original state. Alright, so now we're on top of it. And then what I want to do, of course, is get the official color. So to get the official color, what we need to do is we need to basically create here basically a color. And this color should be also representing here, which will be eventually in there. So to do this, what I can do here is very simple. Let's give this a border color. Let's do this. And then what I will say here, constant border color equals, let's do this very simple, say black. Semicolon here, save this, refresh. Alright, so now you can see it's being transferred from one place to this specific function. But of course, I want to make it dynamic with whatever we have here. Basically here in the background color or border color. In this case, the border color will be sufficient. So what I want to do, or how can we do this? Well, basically, we're going to do the following. I'm going to say here the following. This constant border color will be the following. We're going to say chart.get data set meta. And then here, of course, 0. And then in here, we need to get certain values. And I realized what would make more sense is, of course, at least to show you this in a console log so you have a clear vision of it. So I'm going to do here a console log. So let's dig around and figure out how we can find this one. So we might get an error here. So what I will do here, just to avoid the error, just say this, put it back to black. Save, refresh. Alright. Open up developer tab. We get all of these objects here, but this is the specific object we get here from the get data dataset meta. You can see here line 85 equals line 85 here. So what I want to do now is basically get the specific location of the color. So basically what I need is all the information of the data sets. You can see here where I click just on, oh, just jump down here, underscore dataset, and in underscore dataset we can find background color and border color. And if I click here on the border color, we have all of these items here. And you can see we can just grab this one with the loop of I. It will automatically get the incremental value. So what I'm going to say here, let's go back here. How do we get there? From underscore datasets, background color. So let's try here. Dot underscore datasets dot background color. Save that, refresh. Alright, background color is undefined. Let's see why. What did I miss? Go back here. Alright, undefined because I figured out it is not data sets, it's data set. So if I do then here, background color, it should work. Refresh, there we are. So you get here the entire array with everything. Looks absolutely beautiful. So if you would just get the specific I value here, and we just cut this out, and we place now the black color here, it will work nicely. Move this, save, refresh. Alright, so now you get all the colors here. Beautiful. So we're done basically with the most important part here of the Lollipop chart. But of course, I don't want to go for basics. I have a whole basic in there, a basic video about this already. I want to go a bit more advanced. Let's give it a background color here with some text. Just to note here, this text is so hard to rotate because it has an undesired side effect on Chartjs, so we have it on flat. Anyway, that doesn't matter because we will still be able to get it as we have here. And of course, I won't have any icons for this video. I'll make a separate video for special icons. So what I want to do now is the following. So we have all of this here. And then let's see here, if I refresh and click on this, you can see here, this is the only mystery I always have, is sometimes this shows and sometimes it just doesn't show. So to solve this, because in my other video when I did this, it worked fine, but to solve this and to make sure that we don't get this unwanted side effect when we click on that, I'm going to make a special item in here regarding to the border color. So what I'm going to do here is basically create a if statement so that if the item is visible, we show for the items, or we give the color a whatever the color would be. But if it's not visible, in that case I want to make these circles transparent. So how do we do this? Well, let me show you. There's a special command built in Chartjs that we can use. So what I'm going to do here is the following. I'm going to say here, let's do this, console log, and we're going to say chart dot, and this is the special command that we're going to use. We're going to say here, let me double check, is dataset, with capital D, visible, and which dataset we're talking about. In this case, we only have one dataset, index 0. So I'm going to save that here, refresh. Now you see it's true. Click on that, false, true, false. With this information, we can make this transparent or visible with the matching color. So what I'm going to do here, very simple, is create here a if statement. But to do this, I'm going to say here the following. I'm going to say let, and I'm going to grab here the border color, put that in there. And I'm going to say here this constant will be removed. And the reason I'm using now a let because I'm going to use it twice here, so it might be a reference. And that will give an error if you have a constant. I'm going to say here if, and I'm going to say here, if dataset is visible, equals strict true. That is the case. What I want to do is I want to get this nice border color. Else, if that is not the case, and let's make this properly here. Alright, proper indentation. If that is not the case, I will say border color will be, and make sure here is also good, will be equal to transparent. Don't use white, use transparency. Why? I want to make it invisible. I don't want to show it. So basically this is a cosmetic trick here, and this is how the tooltip works if you hover over the entire item. The tooltip basically is transparent or visible depending on the state. So that's basically what we're doing here. So if I save this now, refresh, this works, there you are. There, show, and show height. Alright, now we have this. So we've done the most of the most complicated part of the Lollipop chart. But we're not done. What I want next is basically the following here. What I'm going to do is, well, let me get there. I want to start now with a new item, which is the background color here. So we're going to work on the background color, and the background color will be based on these values here. So whatever these values is, we need to give it a proper color. Remember, because here we have after dataset, and you already know now after, and we have also before dataset draw. What I want to do now is, because you can see here, this background color must be drawn before we show the dataset bars. That makes sense. So this requires two different options here. So I need to do this here. We'll paste that in there. But then what I will do here is I will say here before instead of after. This is very important to remember. Semicolon here. So then what I'm going to do here is basically the same, and then I'm going to give it a color. So what I will do here is, well, these are all the same. We need those. And here we're going to use, very similar to what we did here with object destructuring. But now we're going to use many different variables we need. So we're going to use chart area. And if you want to understand chart area is basically about this, but I have a whole video about it. Please check my channel for that to understand those things. Chart area is basically the place where we draw the chart. So it's not the canvas, but it's this these four lines here. You can imagine like this is a div. Alright. So the chart area consists of multiple objects in itself as well. First one would be top, bottom, left, right, which are basically the lines, and then we want also the width and the height in pixels. Once we have that, I want to do a comma again, because now the next one is the scales that we need. Scales, alright. And the scales here we have X and Y. So this one will be eventually important to get certain variables from the scales, because basically what I need to know here, the pixel coordination of these numbers here. So that's what we're going to grab here, and that's why we have the X and Y. So now what we're going to do here, down, we're going to say again, ctx.save to save whatever we have here previously, or everything here on top, so we can keep that in memory. And now what I want to do is to start drawing. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a very simple command here, or at least we're going to draw something. So the first thing what we want to do here is to understand what are we going to draw exactly. Well, basically what I want to draw is a rectangle. I'm going to create a rectangle that covers this here, but we need to use here very clever tricks. So get ready for it. So the first thing I'm going to say here is ctx.fill_style. The fill style will be whatever the color is. So in this case, I'm going to say the color will be black, or let's say light gray, maybe even better. That's a nice smooth spot. So we have this color here, and then we're going to ctx and we're going to create now the square or rectangle shape. And this shape will be, we're going to say a fill rect, which would be the command. Then here what we need is the x starting point, y starting point, and then what we want to have here is basically the width and height. And you can see here we already get the width and height, so this will be basically the same. I'll just maintain them, because that's this equals that in this case. And the x and y is different. Basically our x and y will depend specifically on this here. So let's say in this case, from 0 to 0.5 kilometers, what I want here is then to create a, well, let's say a grayish color. Alright? So we're going to say here, how do we do this? Well, first of all, we're going to say x, then we're going to get here, we're going to get pixel, which is a special command in Chartjs, pixel for a value, and this will be equals, well, in this case, I'm going to say here 0. That's the starting point. So what it does is basically it will convert the value into the specific position here. Alright? Or the whatever position we selected, it will convert that into pixel coordinates. Next, what I realize is I make here a tiny mistake. We don't need to have the y calculated, because what I want is the top to bottom. So the starting point would be just basically here. But what we do need is the width, and the width would be here, not whatever we had here. So this one is wrong, and this one should be just top, because I want to start here in the corner and give it a full color here. So just to make sure we understand it, I'm going to just put in 10. Let's draw. Alright, so we have here number 19 has a mistake. Alright, don't do that, sorry. Maybe it should be a comma. There we are. Alright. Sorry about that, so that needs to be a comma. So you can see here now it draws this, but I want to make sure it is here. And maybe if I look at this dot here, maybe we should reduce the dot a bit more, that it will go more to the side. But it doesn't matter anymore. So what I want to do here is to go all here. So my width would be basically on this here, but then here to 0.5, convert that into pixels. There we are. So now we do this converting to 0.5, but you might say, hold on, what's going on here? Why do we have far more than this 0.5? The reason why is it calculates the pixels, and this was the width. So it doesn't calculate the pixels between the difference here. No, it calculates the difference from starting point to here. So what I need to do is here, this place here is what we call the left side, this extra space. So the left here needs to be deducted on there. Yeah, so this is a quite tricky one. So I'm going to say here minus left. Save that. There we are. Now we have this working. So now we have our shape here. And then what I want to finally is I want to say here then ctx.restore. So it will just restore everything, and then we can ready for the next shape. But you can see here, this could be basically a function like here. So let's give this a proper function, and then we can work from there on with a more automated code. So I'm going to say a function, and what we can say here is bg color maybe, and then this, and then just going to cut out and put that in there. Proper indentation, there we are. So what I want to do now, we have this here. Now we just need to get the x and y values. So I'm going to say here x, I guess you can say x start, y. Well, do we need the y start here? Basically not, but we are more interested in the x start and the x end, which would be whatever would be the zone we're in. So that's very important. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say here x end, comma, what we could do here as well, let's do a color as well. So that color needs to be done because we have here the light gray, but it will be different later on. So if I save this now, and then what I'm going to do here is the following. I'm just going to say the background color. And this background color will be the following. And all we're going to say here is going to grab this specific item here. So I want to have a 0. So we're going to put in 0 here, comma, 0.5, comma, whatever the color is. So in this case, it will be light gray. But you can see, of course, we're still not done here. Because we have this x start, which is the number of 0. Needs to be in here. We have the xn, needs to be in here. And we need to put the color, which is a variable as well, put in there. Save that. Refresh. There we are. So now we have this. What I want to do is I want to just grab a save basic color. I'm going to grab this, which is a solid color, by the way, but I'm going to convert this into a 0.2. So if I save this, that's alright. Did it work? There we are. I had a feeling that it was exactly the same. I guess the color is almost similar, but you can see now slightly these lines. Previously we were not able to see them. So this works. So this is basically the acceptable. You can imagine this is basically a house. Where is the house? How far is it located from everywhere? Well, in this case, 0.5. We're going to the school. Good for the kids. Alright. Next item. We're going to make this green because that will be the acceptable range as well. And after that, we're going to give it gradually different colors. I saw here red, but I think it would make more sense. Zone 2 should be green because it's more closer to home. And then after yellow and then red. The farther away, the worse it is, basically. Or the more time it wastes or cost. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this here again. But then this time I'm going to specify here the next value. Well, which was 0.5 to 0.9. So I'm going to say here, this will be 0.5 by 0.9. And then I'm going to grab the green color, which is the fourth value here. Copy that, put it in there. Let me say here 0.2 to make it transparent, refresh. Alright, so now you can see, and you might be completely confused now, why is this now far beyond the point? Alright, so you might say, alright, maybe we need to just reduce this only here. Well, we can check if that is correct. So what I'm going to do here is we have this. Oh, and you can see here now we get an issue. we already reduced that with left. So that would mean that we need to do something else here. So I'm going to show you exactly what we need to do here. What we really need to do here is basically understand, or what I would say, the difference. Because what is happening? We have the 0.5 and 1. And that's basically here. But the real space between, because this 0.9, or that's basically we want to be in the 0.9, that's somewhere here. 0.9 will grab this full space here. But the real place that we need to color starts between this here. So basically it should be 0.5, or and then here we need to move only 0.4. But of course we have this here, so how can we solve this? What we need to do is we need to calculate the difference. That is basically the real, or the difference is basically the real color area, or the area that needs to be colored. So we're going to say here is the following. We're going to say let difference, and I'll give it a let because if not, we're looping through this, so it's probably make more sense to use a let. But then we're going to say here, first of all, we're going to grab here the end, x minus x start. So then we get here 0.9 minus 0.5 would be 0.4. So from that point on, we have now our proper starting point. So then what I want to do here is basically we have here the x start, and then we copy it, the difference, we're going to put it in here. If we save this, refresh, there we are. So this works, and it works nicely even with this one here as well. So it loops in a formula perfectly. So now we have this, and let's see what's next in here. 0.9 to 1.5. Alright, so now it becomes very, very easy. You can copy this again, put it in here. We say 0.9, let's put this here, to 1.5, and let's make this yellow. Yellow is the third value here. Put in there. 0.2, of course, save that. There we are. Final will be 1.5 to 2.5 kilometers. There, and this should be 1.5 to 2.5. And then finally, I'm going to grab this, put it in there. Let's put that in there. Save that, but make sure that this is 0.2. So I don't want to refresh that one, I want to refresh this. Alright, so now we have everything what we need. And I guess, hold on, what is this here? I'm kind of surprised. Why did we get the blue one there? Alright, I realized that I get probably a wrong color. So, fair enough. What I'm going to do is, let's fix this one more time, because I don't like the mistake. It's kind of a mess. Sorry about that. So I'm going to say here 0.9. Alright, make this green. 0.2. And this one, alright, I figured out that this here is also green. I don't want green, I want red, of course. It was supposed to be red. Apparently, I'm just looking at the picture and then I'm going autopilot. So, apologies for that. Alright. 0.2. Save that. Refresh. So, what is going on? Alright. Parentheses, save that. There we are. Alright, so you can see here, red area. And then we have everything here. So what should we do next is basically the text here. I'm going to focus now on the text, and then we are done. Alright, so to do this, and the text is a nice tricky one because you have to, again, figure out to calculate and get the difference because we want to put in text in the center. However, you see this here and you say, hold on, how come we cannot put some space here? Sadly enough, that's a very tricky part in Chartjs, but I have a clever workaround. This is just a workaround, it's just trick that I know how to use Chartjs. So that's what I'm going to show you now. We're going to go in here and going to say here we're going to put a new label in here at the very end. We just say null. So there's no value in there basically. Save here. Save that. Refresh. Alright. There we are. So now we have this blank here, and with this blank we can play around. Let's scroll down here. And the next thing what I want to do here, of course, is start to work on our text. So what I'm going to say here, first of all, I'm going to say a CTX font. And this is basically the description of the font color, sorry, not the font color, the font styles. For example, do you want bold? In this case, I want it bold or even bolder. Font pixel, font size, basically, which is the pixel amount, 12 pixels, and then the font family. Let's select here Arial. So then what I want to do here is CTX, and then we're going to say here CTX that fill style. And this is basically the color for the font. And let's get the official Chartjs color, which is #666. And then once we have this, I want to find a ctx dot fill text, which would be we're going to draw or write the text here. So the first thing here, I'll just say here zone 1. And this is just a test because eventually we need to loop through this correctly and get it drawn. So what I want to do here next is I want to get the specific coordinates. So this one is slightly more tricky, but what I will do is just for the sake of it, I'm going to just grab here the x, and then the x starting would basically be here. And then what I want to do here, and this is the reason why I got the y here, is I want to get the y, but which number y? Not this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So index number 7 here. And that's because we have this null value. So I'm going to say here the following. Let's see. Where is that? The text here. I'm going to say here, copy this, put in here the y value, get the value, and this value will be by a hard-coded 7. Of course, you could do it soft-coded by saying length, and then, well, basically the length itself, that will be fine. Refresh. Alright, let me double check here what happened. X start is not defined. Fair enough, of course it's not defined because we don't have it yet. So now we have this, and I guess what we could do immediately with this, even if I would do here, let's say, value of, well, we can say is 0. That's the starting point. There we are. We have zone 1. But what I want to, and this is a tricky one, I want to push it in the center. So how do we do this? Well, to do this, I need to figure out here the exact center coordinates. And to do that, what we need to do here is basically to get the center here. Well, you know, it's just 0.5 minus 0 divided by 2. But when you do that same here, you say 1 minus 0.5, which would be 0.5 divided by 2, would indicate 0.25. So what we need to do is not like that. What we need to do is 0.5 minus 0 divided by 2 plus whatever would be here, the starting point, that is 0. But that is alright. Here that's fine. And then here it will work as well, and then will work as well. Because here what will happen is, or it was, if I'm not mistaken, it was 0.9. So that will be 0.5 or 0.9 minus 0.5 would be 0.4 divided by 2 would be 0.2 plus 0.5, and then you get 0.7. So I hope you're able to follow along, but if you're not, don't worry. Let me show you. That's 100 times better. So what we're going to do here is, first of all, we have this here, and then what I'm going to say here, we're going to grab here this, but I want to grab now the ending value. And you can see we have all of this here, so I think we can just cut this out for now and just move it in here. So we don't have to make it too complicated, these new values. All I want to get here is the x start. So the x start is this one here, and the x end will be eventually, well, in here as well. What I really need here is just the difference itself. And what I mean by the difference is, well, basically we have here the difference, we calculate this, that would be whatever the value is, and then plus starting point. Or once we divide this by 2, plus starting point. So what I'm going to do here is, well, what we can do here is the following. I'm going to say let's say div. Alright, so just not a difference. And what it does is the following. I'm going to say this divided by 2 plus x starting. Alright. Once we did this, and then what I want to do, I'll just do here parentheses. Well, basically in mathematics, this is not necessary because it already works. But just to be sure, I want to make sure that this gets priority over the plus. Well, by default, the formula will get the priority like that. So, but anyway, doesn't matter. And then we have this value here. Oh, and then we have to watch out here because I'm doing a mistake here. What I'm doing a mistake here is this. I'm not allowed to do this. No, I need to calculate the exact value, which is basically the 0.5 or whatever the value would be. Here, and then this div must be in here in pixel value. We're going to do this. There we are. We're now getting in here. We're getting close to what we want. And then the only difference here most likely is the minus of left. So let's look at that. And then what I need to do here is, oh no, sorry, it's not minus of left. The reason why this is not yet, because we're in the center right now, but the text is not properly. So we're going to do the text align. Just think about CSS. We can text align paragraph left, center, or end. So we always say here text align equals center. Do that. Save that. Refresh. Beautiful. Now we are nice in the center, but of course I don't want these zones always to be 1. So what we're going to do here, final one is the text. Say text here. Copy this. We convert zone 1 to whatever the text would be, which is a dynamic text. Say here comma, and then we say here, scroll, type it in, zone 1, comma here, zone 2, comma there, zone 3, comma there, zone 4. Save this. Refresh. There you are. So now we have this beautiful item here, and it shows all nicely like this. And this is basically the way we can play around with it. We could do here with this, I'll make a separate video how you can just put in nice items in here or icons in here, and that would be even more fun. But basically this is the entire Lollipop chart, which is the advanced one, which is very identical to this. So if you enjoyed this video and maybe you say, well, hold on, at least can I at least know how to use, for example, different characters instead of maybe font awesome, I want to use UTF. In this case, I have a special video here that shows you how to use UTF-8 and UTF-16 special characters, where you can use like these delta, phi, superscript, and all kind of characters that are currently existing in the HTML characters, like the web links and etc. etc. So that's maybe an interesting topic as well for you to explore.